closer. Oh, the way you kiss me. Oh, oh, your smile melts my bones. I want to be your good time girl. But boy, you better believe me, there's one little thing I just can't let you get off quite so easily. If I'm done your eyes and crossing all of your T's, there's nobody left to take care of me. So unless you be the man to meet me halfway, this good time girl is walking away.
Going on the air here. All right, we'd like to welcome you to our city council meeting tonight. It's been a while since we've met, and we'd like to welcome all the people who are here in the chambers, all you Boy Scouts. You're here for an exciting night. You know, I'm sure you just can't wait. All these nice fun stuff here. But we appreciate all of you being here and those who are out there watching it on TV. We've got a special individual here that's going to start us off with our motivational message. I'd like to invite our VFW individual to introduce this fine young man. Tell us a little bit about Connor.
Thank you, Mayor and council members. My name is Darrell Root. I am the Senior Vice Commander of the local post here of the Veterans of Foreign War. I'm also the Quartermaster Adjutant for the district, and I'm also a state officer, so I have many hats in the ring here. The VFW has a special scholarship program that we do every year. For the junior high school age, they write an essay based on a theme that we present to them. And we have a young man from our own Spanish Fort Junior High that applied for that, wrote an essay, one at our post level, one at our district level, and just recently one at the state level. He will be competing against all the other departments, all the other states at a national level. If he walks away as the very last person, he will walk away with a $500 scholarship. That's just last place. So we're really proud of him. And I'd like to introduce Mr. Connor Gates.
My speech was titled "The America I Believe in." America, the land of the free and the home of the brave, is the place where people with different ideals and backgrounds should be able to live free from persecution and hardships. One where people should be free to express their opinions and not be afraid to convey those beliefs. One where people should not be judged by the color of their skin, ethnic backgrounds, religion, or opinions, but by their actions and the reasoning behind those actions. The America I believe in is a place where political representatives fulfill their obligations and responsibilities out of love for their country, not the need for power. One where the country is put first and the flag still stands for freedom, the life of veterans, and respect for our forefathers. One where the founding fathers can be proud of what we've done as a country and how the country's future is affected. One where veterans can and should be treated with the respect they so rightfully deserve. One where we never forget what they have done for us and that we return the favor. The America I believe in is a place where people aren't afraid to lend a hand or too haughty to help one in need. One where people work hard for what they have. One where we stand as a beacon to the world, one of power, unity, and freedom. One where grit, hard work, and determination can help someone up the corporate ladder or out of a rough spot in their lives. One where a person can accomplish their dreams no matter what the physical and mental cost. The America I believe in is a place where everyone has the same rights and wants to do their part. One where the laws set are followed by everyone and everyone respects the people enforcing them. One where people aren't shot in the streets, where parents don't have to work 2 or 3 jobs to support their families. One where people are willing to help out their country, where they have patriotism and aren't afraid to show it. One where people can handle not coming in first and won't be scared to fall down and fail. And finally, the America I believe in is a place in which one can say with pride, I love America. Thank you.
Thank you, Connor, and good luck. All right, I've asked Tyler Jacobson to give us an invocation.
Our dear kind Heavenly Father, we're very grateful to be gathered here tonight to discuss the needs of our community. We're so grateful for blessing Spanish Fork City the way that Thou has in the past, and we're grateful for the wonderful leaders who take the time and put in the effort to make this such a wonderful place. We're grateful for the people that live here, and we pray Thou will bless us all, that Thou will help us to make decisions that will help to improve the lives of the youth and all those that live here. And we pray for these things in the name of Jesus Christ. Amen.
Thank you. All right, I invite Jacob Theodosius to come up and lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance, one of our fine Boy Scouts.
Repeat, may the audience please rise? Repeat after me in the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. Okay. We'll move on to Employee of the Quarter. So who's coming up to present that? Oh, looks like Officer Friendly.
It's great to be here this evening and present to you the Employee of the Quarter. If I could have Lance Rudd please come forward. Lance Rudd began his employment with the Spanish Fork City Police Department in 2002. Prior to that, he was employed by the Gunnison Police Department for 2 years. He began as a patrol officer with our department, and then he transferred to the Investigations Division in 2008, where he did an excellent job as the city narcotic officer. He went back to patrol 3 years later, and then he was transferred to the Code Enforcement Division in September of 2016. Lance has received 3 life-saving awards as well as a unit citation award while he's been serving as a police officer here in the community. He's a field training officer, a taser instructor, as well as a defensive tactics instructor for our department. Lance puts forth 120% at whatever he does. He's an asset to the police department, and the community should feel very fortunate that they have an individual such as Lance representing them and serving them in our community. I'd like to read the nomination. In the last week, I've asked Lance to help 2 different citizens regarding some possible code violations. On both occasions, Lance contacted the citizen almost immediately and offered his sincerest service to them. The first patron sent me the following email regarding Lance. Thank you for your quick response to my concern. I missed your phone call, Officer Rudd, but I did listen to your voicemail. I greatly appreciate you both for taking my concern seriously and taking the necessary steps to fix the situation, even though it appears that steps have already previously been taken and are underway. The second citizen called me after Lance had visited with her and praised Officer Rudd. She said, among other things, that she so appreciated Lance's willingness to listen to her and that he told her to feel free to contact him anytime with questions. She then went a step further and brought a thank you card into the city office, braving the snowy weather conditions to do so. Officer Rudd has always done his duty without seeking any type of recognition, but when he performs as well as he has in the recent past, he may have no choice but to be recognized as the employee of the quarter. So I ask that you please congratulate Officer Rudd with me and his award for the quarter.
Being our taser training officer, does any scouts want to volunteer? You'll go through the taser training?
Hey, Lance. Yes. We're going to get a picture.
Come back here. Great. We have great employees here, and it's kind of fun to recognize them and see that they're here. Is he here?
For what? Yeah, for Grant to see her.
We're going to go out of order here just a little bit. So is Trent?
Yes.
Great. We're going to have Trent Bristol come from the DNR Wildlife cooperative agreement and talk to us. We're moving him up on the schedule because
Good evening. My name is Trent Bristol, and I'm the area manager for the Division of Forestry, Fire, and State Lands under the Department of Natural Resources for the Wasatch Front. And got a presentation to talk about our new fire policy. We've made some changes recently that are going to be of particular interest to communities as well as our counties. And I just want to say I appreciate you being willing to move things around. I got to head back to Tooele tonight by the time we're done, so thank you.
glad to do it.
Really what this all stems from was back in 2012, we had a really significant fire season. Catastrophic was the word that was used on a regular basis. And anecdotally, Commissioner Blackham from the Department of Agriculture had said something to the governor that somebody needs to do something about these catastrophic wildfires. And the governor turned to Commissioner Blackham and said, okay, you're the man. And so charged him to come up with a strategy. Well, pretty quick, he realized he needed to bring our division on board. And just a couple of things that came out of this. We were charged by the governor to come up with a strategy to deal with these catastrophic wildfires. In 2015, they passed Senate Bill 56 that basically required us to come up with a strategy. And I'll just kind of skip through some of the history here. But 2016, we had some really critical legislation. Senate Bill 122 allowed us to enter into a cooperative agreement with communities, the same way we've done with counties in the past. And that's really significant for you folks. In the past, when fires have burned into municipal boundaries, the city's been on the hook. And, you know, they basically just get a bill from our division to pay for those fires. In counties, we've been able to enter into an agreement to mitigate some of those costs a little bit, but we've never been able to do that with cities until 2016. Senate Bill 212 basically just authorized some funding for this new program. We have a county fire warden. Your fire folks are probably pretty familiar with Kevin Cortez, and he and his folks have a strong relationship with the county firefighters, and we want that relationship to stay the same. We don't want any changes to the relationship with our county warden, other than now he's going to have a little bit closer ties to some of the communities and be able to help you guys with navigating this new program and being successful should you choose to enter into this cooperative agreement. There are 4 major issues I just want to address under this new policy. The one is the state assuming the cost of large and extended attack fires. So if you enter into this cooperative agreement, the state will actually pay for any fires that get beyond the capabilities of your local department to address. There are some local government obligations, some things that we want you guys to do in return for us paying for those fires. And then I want to talk a little bit about how that delegation of fire management and fiscal responsibility gets transferred. And then I want to talk just briefly about cost recovery. With the communities, with the municipalities, the program starts on July 1. We're trying to go with fiscal years. So the counties were all supposed to be on board as of January 1 of 2017. With the communities, because you're on a different fiscal year, we wanted to operate off of your fiscal year. So we're giving you until July 1 to decide whether you want to opt in or opt out. It's a voluntary system. We're not expecting anybody to enter into this. You can opt in, you can opt out, whatever you feel is most appropriate for you as a city. It's a new agreement. It's similar to our old county agreement that we used to work with the counties, but again, it's available now to communities as well. I guess I need to update my presentation. It's no longer being drafted, it is drafted. In fact, I had sent a copy of the paperwork to Tyler and some other folks previously, so they've had a chance to look at this. It's a 5-year agreement, and as I mentioned, the cities are, basically June 30th to sign on, and it'll be active July 1. So the local government obligations we talked about, we're still expecting the local fire departments to provide initial attack. So when a fire breaks out, your local fire department's going to be the closest group, most likely. They're going to jump on that like they've always done. Local departments have a fantastic track record. I think we figure there's over 90% of the fires in the state are caught by the local departments before they get to be 10 acres in size. And, you know, that's what we're really counting on with this program is we're depending on those local departments to maintain and continue that kind of track record. We're depending on those local departments to maintain some training and certification standards. We want the community to enter into a wildfire preparedness plan, which is a community-driven process. We want folks from the local communities to come together, talk about what your concerns are. We have an individual that can facilitate that discussion and kind of move you through the template to put that plan together. But that gives you guys an opportunity to say, these are where our concerns are. How do we address those concerns? And we can help you with some of that. You know, if you guys have got ideas on how you want to address that, you can do that. Really the purpose of this program is to empower local governments to come up with their own solutions, and we're here to provide support for that. So we want to make sure that wildfire preparedness plan is in place, and they're allowing us until 2019 to get all those written, because I've got 5 counties on the Wasatch Front. We've got a lot of communities to get that done for us, so they're giving us a couple years to get those finished. The participation commitment, we're asking the local communities not to pay us. In the past, the counties would actually pay into an insurance fund, and we've eliminated that insurance fund. And what we're asking counties and municipalities who enter into this agreement to do is to actually put projects on the ground. So those dollars that you used to pay into the state's insurance fund, we want you to reinvest those in your own community in things that will reduce the risk of wildfire. So whether it's fuel reduction or building up your fire department's equipment or going out and spreading a message of fire prevention to your community, all of those things are going to build into that participation commitment. And then just briefly, who is an eligible entity? Eligible entities are counties or municipalities or special service districts that have fire suppression responsibilities and taxing authority. So the participation commitment for the counties is based on a risk assessment tool where we've done some geographic information systems exercises, and we've come up with low, medium, and high risk acres for the entire state. And there's an assessment based on those medium and high risk acres. And that will allow those counties or municipalities to focus in on those high risk acres and try to address those so that you can reinvest your money into the areas that make the most sense to reduce your risk. With the counties, we're also including a 10-year fire history. So the cost of their fires over 10 years, and we take the high and the low and we throw them out and average those out, and then that's what we're asking them to reinvest in their community. Since we don't have that information for municipalities, we're starting just with the risk assessment tool, but beginning in 2017, we'll start tracking that 10-year fire history. So this is kind of what the risk assessment tool looks like. And you can see the green is low risk, the white is really no risk, yellow is the medium risk, and then the red is the high risk. So you can, and this tool is available to the public. You can log on to this, and I think it's mentioned in that cooperative agreement. There's a link to this. I didn't think to put the link in this presentation, but you can click on this, you can open it up, you can zoom in and look at your community, you can zoom it all the way in and look at your neighborhood if you want to. It's pretty user-friendly, it's pretty interactive. There's a lot of information that you can get off of this tool, but really what this does is help you to figure out where you want to reinvest those dollars, and like I say, we're certainly here to help you with that if you need that. So the participation commitment, there's 3 different types of activities that we're looking for. Prevention, which is basically going out and spreading the message, telling people about not starting fires. So if your fire department goes door to door and talks to people, or if they put a booth in an emergency fair, you can document the time that they spend on that, and that will go towards your participation commitment. Preparedness, if you're building up your equipment, we're asking to put a cap on that at about 25% of your participation commitment, just because, I mean, you can invest a lot in a piece of equipment, and we want to make sure that we're addressing those other 2 things as well. So we'd like to make sure that at least 50% is in mitigation or fuel reduction. And there's a lot of different ways that you can address those different things. So we have some staff that can kind of work with your staff and help you identify how to address all three of those things and meet your participation commitment. A couple of things that don't qualify, anything that the state is involved in, anything that we fund, we do occasionally go after grant dollars to try and help out with some of these fuel reduction projects. I think we did a pretty large project for Santaquin last year. And so any of the things that the state funds wouldn't go towards your participation commitment. So if your firefighters are being trained by state or federal folks, the cost of those state or federal people wouldn't go towards that, but certainly the time for your local department could be counted. We don't want to improve culinary water systems. We don't want to improve individual structures with these monies. Well, I mean, you're certainly welcome to do those things, but that wouldn't count towards your participation commitment. And then if you've got an existing program, what we don't want to see is that somebody says, oh, hey, we've got a weed supervisor, they're out cutting weeds all the time, we're just going to use their whole program as our participation commitment. However, if you've got a local weed person, county weed person or city weed person, and they are involved in a specific project that reduces risk for your community, you certainly can count that time as part of your participation commitment. So for Spanish Fork, we're basically looking for $8,000 worth of participation commitment. It's pretty easy to come up with $8,000 worth of work. And volunteer projects, you've got a number of Boy Scouts here. If you've got an Eagle Scout project that reduces risk of wildfire, each one of those boys is worth $23 an hour. So,
I bet they're glad to hear that.
that doesn't mean they're going to get paid $23 an hour. But it's worth $23 for the city. So anyway, this is just kind of a quick breakdown of the acres for Spanish Fork, and I didn't have a map zoomed in specifically, but this is just kind of how it breaks down. So when a fire is going to be delegated to the state, there's really 4 things that will trigger that. First of all, if your local fire chief, whoever the incident commander is on site, decides that this is too big for us, we need some help, they can delegate that to the state at any time they want. If state or federally owned lands are involved, that's going to be an immediate trigger for the state to step in and take over financial responsibility and management of that fire. Anytime additional resources are ordered through the Interagency Fire Center up in Draper, that's another trigger that will delegate that fire. And then the last one is kind of what I call the nuclear option at the discretion of the state forester. And really, I don't foresee that being used very often, but we wanted to put that in there just in case there's a local department that just really wants to hold on to that fire and not delegate it to the state, and we can see that it becomes a safety issue. So we haven't had that happen. You know, I think most departments are pretty dialed into what they can and can't handle, so I don't foresee that being used much. We want to be really sensitive about the way we approach this delegation. You know, we don't want to have to step in and say, hey, we're the state, you better give us this fire. We want to make sure that we're communicating with your local folks. We are committed to unified command, which means we'd be communicating with you guys as a municipality, with your fire department, making sure that you guys all have a say in the decisions that are being made. The other thing that's kind of unique and is new to this year, the state has committed to pay all aircraft costs. So even during initial attack, when your local department is out there, if when the call goes out to NWIFC that there's a fire, and there are a series of what they call run cards, which has a list of resources that they send out based on different fire conditions. If there's aircraft listed in that run card and that aircraft responds to initial attack, the state will pay for that, and that won't go towards your participation commitment. Once it gets delegated to the state, then that does start to add on to your participation commitments. And finally, we're asking people to be a little bit more proactive than we've been in the past about cost recovery for fires that are human started, particularly if it's negligence or intentional or whatever. If there's an opportunity to go after some of that cost and recover some of that, anything that you as a municipality are able to recover and put back into the suppression fund for the state, will certainly go towards your participation commitment. So those are ways to kind of reduce that participation commitment. Also, if we start to step up that cost recovery a little bit, that sends a message that hopefully people will start to be a little bit more careful about starting fires if they know they're going to get billed for it. So just briefly, the state will assume cost for those fires. Local efforts to reduce risk are prevention, mitigation, preparedness. We want a community wildfire preparedness plan, local initial attack. If you have any questions, I would certainly entertain those.
Well, I think it's going to be a good program. Seth?
May I ask one?
Well, yeah.
Certainly.
With the last, this was a 2015 Senate bill, is that what?
Well,
16?
2016 was
Okay.
what really enacted most of the changes.
So we've had one fire season since then.
Yeah.
Did we have any city-state interactions in fire, and if so, how did they go?
I am not aware of any city interactions in 2016. I've been involved in a couple previous to that. Honestly, it's pretty rare for a city to have fires burning within their municipality. Springville did probably 2 years ago or maybe 3 years ago. So I was involved in that a little bit, and they were able to provide some cost to the fire. So typically what we do is when a fire crosses boundaries like that, especially if there's federal and state and private or whatever, the state will cover our portion based on acreage percentage, the feds will cover theirs, and the municipality has been on the hook for their percentage. So 3 years ago, Stockton had a fire that burned through town, and they ended up with a $60,000 bill. For a town of Stockton, that's a pretty big deal. So it was kind of a rare event. I'm only aware of maybe half a dozen cities in my jurisdiction, my 5-county area, that have had fires burn into municipalities. So I guess what that really does, once you start that 10-year fire history, if you only get one fire every 10 years, we're going to throw out the high and the low, and that's not going to count against you anyway. So.
This is something that's been a lot of work for the last couple of years. The league and the state is working together, and it's been a good collaborative effort watching that go through the LPC process and the state process. So.
That's good.
Yeah, that was one thing my boss did want me to point out when I give this presentation, is it's been a 2-year collaboration between not only the League of Cities and Towns, but the Association of Counties as well. It's really been a good opportunity for those two groups to come together and actually come to an agreement, some consensus on some of these issues.
That's good. Well, we sure appreciate you coming down.
Well, I
presenting
appreciate
that
you.
to us.
Yeah, thank you for giving me some time on your agenda tonight.
You betcha. Drive careful.
Thank you.
Thanks, Trent.
Hey, Mayor. So we didn't put the actual agreement on the agenda tonight. We were planning to put that on the next time.
Okay.
We wanted to have some more discussion.
Sure.
Junior high, and
That'd be great.
Okay. Thanks.
All right. Thanks,
Thanks, Trent.
Tyler.
Very good. Thank you.
Appreciate it.
All right. We will now move to public comments. Anyone that's here that would like to address the mayor or the council, you're sure welcome to come up here and talk to us. Okay. Seeing none, I'd go to council comments. And so, Councilmember Beck.
Okay, thank you. Well, I first want to welcome all the scouts here tonight. It's good to see your faces here. And our first person to come up will be our Director of the Chamber of Commerce, Heather Youd. Give us an update what's happened in January so far, February.
Okay, so we had our installation banquet in the middle of last month. It turned out really well. We had a lot of great awards. The mayor presented. It turned out really nice. We just had our Bills and Bagels last Saturday. We had a great turnout. Hopefully we'll have that many people come again on the 25th. Our business of the month for February is Maple Creek Home Health and Hospice. They're just down on the corner across the street there. We have our new networking luncheon on the 15th, so next Wednesday. So we're hoping to do that at the High Chaparral. And then we also had a ribbon cutting today for Peak Orthodontics. And they wanted to give the council all a water bottle.
Thank you.
All right. There's no water in it.
And a toothbrush.
Oh,
Yeah, brush your teeth.
Oh.
Fitting. Fitting for the mayor.
thank you very much. Awesome.
Yep. Thank you.
And that's all I have. Thanks, Susie.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you, Heather. And just a quick couple comments on the Fiesta Days Committee. Things are going well as we're planning for Fiesta Days. We have asked Leonard and Loa Ellis to be our grand marshals this year. They will be great. And Tyler, do you have a picture that you can put up? No. So this is Gail Davies. She is our Fiesta Days chairman, her and her husband, Robert. And last week, Gail and I went to Mark McKell's house. And I bet you anything he's watching right now. So he's just tickled pink that he's up on screen. Every time I see him, he says he watches us. But the Fiesta Days Committee asked him to be the recipient this year of our Pioneer Spirit Award, and he was just tickled pink, and we were able to spend about 30 minutes there watching him, listening to him play the organ. He's 98 years old. He'll be 99 in September, and so he says this is great motivation to keep on kicking. So he's darling. So we're excited. And that's all I've got.
Thank you. Councilman Gordon.
Mayor, had an airport meeting. Many of you know Gail Halverson, the Candy Bomber. They're gaining some momentum to try and raise some funds that our Spanish Fork Airport, we would be able to have a museum there. And so if anybody would like more information on that, you can go to thecandybomber.org and learn about maybe an opportunity to be able to help out with that project. It'd be a wonderful addition to our airport here in town. Other than that, just the snow removal challenges down at the airport. Thank you. Challenging year, obviously, with snow removal down at the airport, but they've been able to keep up, and Dave Bradford's done a wonderful job there. At the Solid Waste District, recycling continues to be a challenge. Please be aware of what you put in your recycling can. We're getting quite a bit of it rejected because there's stuff that shouldn't be in there, so keep that in mind. It goes to the West Coast and gets rejected, and we have to truck it back sometimes, and it gets to be quite expensive. So, and the last thing, I just want to congratulate Lance Rudd, Officer Rudd's wonderful addition to our community, and so congratulate him.
Great.
Thanks, Mayor.
Councilman Scobes.
Mayor, just a couple of small things to report on over the past several weeks. The library board, we met in December. I don't know that I've had a chance to report on that. I really just want to express appreciation to Dawn Graham. She completed her second and final term on the library board. A lot of great service to the community. I just really appreciate the time that she put in. Talked about programs that started in January, some of them running through January, February, and then others will be starting in the spring. Computer coding, Book Buzz, Teen Thursday, and then even a Dungeons and Dragons for teens that they've got set up, and a lot of these have been very well received. A lot of great attendance in past programs as well as these ones running currently. And then the Fine Arts Committee met last week. Got a report from the different auxiliaries within that committee. The youth community theater and different things. They reported on the sort of the end of year in review. This is what they had accomplished. A lot of great things planned. A lot of announcements and things that will be coming forward. And then certainly looking forward to spring, summer, and the activities that they have lined up for that. So no big changes there at this time. And that's all I have.
Great, thank you. Councilman Mendenhall.
Thank you, Mayor. Have had a few meetings with the boards that we sit on, as all of us have this last little while. Had some water meetings with the Mount Nebo Water Agency, also a SUMWA meeting, the South Utah Valley Water Municipal Agency. Also had some Parks and Rec meetings, a lot of things going on there, but some focused discussion on the Active and Healthy Community Initiative with our grant funds that we received, and some things that are going to be up and coming in the spring and hit the ground running in the summer with some cool things in the community to help us all be active and healthy. I did learn about some opportunities as well that I hope it's out there to the community. There's a Facebook page about the active and healthy community that you can find, but did learn about some local families here in our community that have some issues with maybe getting their kids in to see counselors and help, and learned about some stories where they simply hadn't done that because they didn't have the funds to do it. They didn't have the initial cost to do it, which can get expensive when it's not just a medical doctor, but more of a mental health provider. So I want to stress again that your city has the ability through these grant funds that we were awarded, which is $225,000 over 3 years, to be able to help you out with that. So if you know of anybody, if you yourself, your family, is struggling with anything on the mental health side, know that your city here is here to help you and can help you get in contact with the right people, and even maybe help you with the initial visits that might need to happen. We want to make sure everybody has the opportunity in our community to be physically healthy and mentally healthy. So remember that. And then really quick, it's been mentioned tonight about the League of Cities and Towns. The legislature is in session right now, and we've been up to some meetings up there for Local Officials Day and whatnot, but I also want to let you know we've been up there on a weekly basis, at least a weekly basis. Seth and Tyler have been up there, and I want you to know your city, your local government here is always here for you. We certainly use the word government as what can sometimes be a four-letter word in some realms, right? But your local government here are only your friends and neighbors to help listen and try to solve problems locally. Sometimes those problems can get up to the state level and be talked about, but think about it this way, which is the way I like to think about it, which is what the League of Cities and Towns stresses, is that what may work for one city, what may work for Bluffdale or Kaysville or South Jordan might not be the same issues that work for Spanish Fork. So if you have issues, please feel free to come talk to us. It doesn't have to be at a council meeting, but you know our emails and our phone numbers, and we'd all love to talk to you anytime we can to help resolve situations within Spanish Fork before it may be getting to a state level where now it's state law or state ordinance that can affect everybody. To put it in perspective, there's over 200 bills being tracked just by the league in this 45-day session up there. Over 200 bills, 200 laws. A lot of those are dealing with unintended consequences of laws that were previously passed. So if sometimes we can avoid passing new state laws that we all might have consequences that we maybe didn't quite want, let's try to fix the problems locally. And Spanish Fork has a good history of doing that. But a shout out to our staff as well that speak very well for Spanish Fork and a whole lot of cities up on the Hill. We're very respected and doing it the right way on a lot of levels. And so we're shown as an example up there. So just wanted to make sure that's out there, Mayor, and that's all I have.
Thank you. Councilman Argyle.
Yeah, thanks, Mayor. I'm just a reminder to the seniors, this Friday is their Valentine dinner and dance at the Senior Center. Then I also want to just second what Mike had talked about. Our state legislative is in session, and we have some very decent representatives that represent our area. Representative Deidre Henderson, Mike McHale, and Francis Gibson, and they represent us very well. Take the time to maybe give them a call or watch what's going on up there. As Mike said, there's 200. I think this year they announced that more bills have been announced. There was 1,200 bills that have been put forth up there that affect our daily lives and our city and everything else. So I would encourage you to be involved a little bit and get to know what's going on up there, because some of those bills will impact you. And you have a chance to voice your opinion to these representatives as they sit in this. And it's a short 45 days. It goes by pretty fast, and then those laws are enacted. And as he said, some of them get enacted, and then we have to deal with them on later. So take the opportunity to to at least be a little bit involved and know what's going on up at our state legislative, and also here at our city council. So we're local. We have that same. We love to hear from you and know what's going on and ask questions about what's going on in our city. So thank you, Mayor.
Okay. I just want to report on, I have my, our last MAG meeting that's Mountain Land Association. That's where a lot of our funding comes for different projects we have throughout the city. This last meeting we had last week, they just approved for some money for our trail system. So this is a great thing for us. Usually they list everything by number, and you're a certain number, and then they just start from the top, and that's how they start funding projects. And so we were sealed, and then they said we found some more money, and we're going to go down, and we made the cut, so we're going to get some more money there. So this is a great organization that helps the city, helps our citizens, and helps build different projects that we need here in the city. So that's a good thing. Okay, let's go to SF 101. Chris Thompson and the Reader's Digest version.
Okay, coming up, we just bid this project out. This is the Canyon Creek road coming from Highway 6. So if you'll look right here, this is Highway 6. You have the Walmart is kind of, this is the entrance into the Walmart, and then there's another entrance into the Walmart. Here's 10th North coming in, and so this is 10th North. And anyway, when right now you're going to Walmart, you approach this intersection here, and there seems to be a bottleneck on the straight through traffic, and so there'll end up being 2 lanes coming straight through. They'll come in, and there will now be medians in the road, precluding some cross traffic movement, which should make this flow a lot better. Also, we have this area right here of Canyon Creek Parkway, which comes out into the road, that will be widened so that we will have full lanes all the way through to the Walmart intersection. So this is coming up in conjunction with a lot of the development that's going on in that area. There's one last thing that I'd like to point out, and that is when you're coming from the Walmart area across Highway 6, you used to be able to make, right now you can make this left turn movement, but to facilitate a better situation on the signal here and to prevent traffic from backing up towards Highway 6, this movement is coming out. This was a requirement by UDOT for us when we got the 700 East access from Highway 6. And so we got that access, and the agreement was that this eventually be taken out, and that is slated to happen this spring. So the bids just came out, and we expect construction to start in the next month or so.
Just went out for bid, did you say? Or
the bid, we've received the bids,
okay.
and they came in under budget, so we're good.
Good job.
Thank you, and great job on the presentation. All right, I'd entertain a motion for the consent items.
So moved.
Got a motion by Councilman Gordon, a second by Councilman Scobes. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All right. Okay. We'll start in with our public hearings. Our first one on the agenda is we'll have Dave come and talk to us about Anthony Park preliminary plat and zone change.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Subject property is located on First South, a little bit west of us, out towards I-15. This is the Spanish Fields development here. Kind of surrounds the subject property to the south and largely to the east. This is what we're talking about. Currently, the property is zoned rural residential. The proposal is to change the zoning to R19 in order to allow for a 39-unit master plan development. And this particular design that we see here with the roads configured the way that they are was the subject of some discussion that we had in a public hearing with the Planning Commission a few weeks ago, as was a condition that we have with Third South right here to the east of the subject property. And I know some of you have been very involved in discussions with some of us on staff about how we could address some concerns that were raised, and largely they have to do with access, not only for the subject property and the development that may happen here, but also with the surrounding neighborhood. And in short, this design's been modified. We appreciate the applicant working with both the city and UDOT in order to secure the ability to, instead of having this street tie in to the neighboring property to the east, the way that we see it now, which was done initially with the idea that then access would occur on First South when this property develops. But rather than to wait, UDOT has approved a connection immediately north of this street, so it will simply continue through straight. In fact, Tyler, I think we have an image down a little bit further in the report that's just the current design. And in our view, by making this connection at this point in time, do a couple of different things. First of all, obviously it'll provide a direct access for these residents so that we'll be minimizing any additional traffic impact that'll be had in the Spanish Fields neighborhood. Also, it will provide an additional route for residents in Spanish Fields to First South, which I think all of us on staff agree will be good. It's needed. And then lastly, during the construction of this project, it'll be easy for the applicant to work to make sure that all construction traffic enters this project via First South, so we won't have large trucks and that sort of thing going through the Spanish Fields development during construction. The other concern that we've talked about relative to this deficiency in the width of Third South, again, east of the subject property, and perhaps Chris Thompson, the city engineer, can speak to this better than I can, but as I understand it, over the years, staff's looked at different ways to improve that. And to make a long story short, that fix, it will be costly when it happens. And therefore, in our view, really the feasible way to deal with that simply comes when that property develops and a ditch gets piped and roads get expanded and that sort of thing, with the idea that it would happen at that point in time and not before. So it's our recommendation tonight that a few different things happen. First of all, that, like I mentioned, the zone change that would change the zoning to R19 for the subject property here be approved. Both the Planning Commission and Development Review Committee have recommended that that happen. And then subsequent to that, the proposed preliminary plat for Anthem Park with 39 lots, a master plan development, be approved as well. And that, at least for the time being, we don't make any changes to Third South, again, east of the subject property.
Okay. Since this is a public hearing, I'd entertain a motion to go into public hearing.
So moved.
Second.
Got a motion by Councilman Mendenhall and a second by Councilman Gordon. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
If there's anyone out there in the public that'd like to come up and address this subdivision zone change, you're welcome to come up. Seeing none, I'd entertain a motion to go out of public hearing.
So moved.
Second.
Got a motion by Councilman Scobes and a second by Councilmember Beck. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any questions, discussions?
Dave, what's this?
That is part of the property that, I don't know the exact history of the configuration of the property or how that ended up being designed the way that it is. Frankly, it's encumbered. You have a railroad track and a public right-of-way that consume most of that. So I think the applicant's plan is to dedicate part of that to the city, if not all of it. There you go, so we'll take ownership of that, and in this case, I think that's entirely appropriate, given that You know, it's the railroad in the
So
street.
we're not building a house on it then?
Right.
Is this road gonna be a wider road?
It's not, which personally I think is important to make sure we don't have an issue with travel speed along that street.
So it'll stay the same as these roads in the old existing subdivisions?
I think it's pretty close. It might be a little bit narrower at intersections than what we have in the existing subdivision, but
Due in part to LID. Is any of
LID
that?
will be employed here,
Right.
as I understand it.
Storm Tech on the UDOT highway.
Okay,
Good.
cool.
Two quick points. Again, thank you to the Planning Commission and the DRC for fielding this through, and the residents that also got involved, again, to speak to local authority and local changes. We received many phone calls, and I'm sure you did too, Dean, of residents in the area, and this is the adjustment that's come, and I know hearing from them, some of them are pleased about this change. So again, a shout out for local authority and land use rather than stepping it up to a different level.
Also, thanks to staff, member Lua came with me to UDOT. They originally said no, that, you know, that going out there. Obviously, you guys have a good relationship there because they didn't have any problem moving that.
Helped it along, yeah.
Well, when you take Lua, they don't have a problem with anything.
Another Dave, quick question that I've been asked was we might have some other areas, and we know that roads get improved when a property's developed, and that 300 South issue with the elevation change down to the ditch. I know there's some other areas that have, you know, a half or a three-quarter of a road built, but do we have ordinances in place that would not allow this to happen again, where the elevation is pretty dramatic from the road down to the ditch?
Yes, when I became Public Works Director, I went and looked at this with our Streets Division because we were very concerned about the safety hazard of the drop-off along here. And we looked at any number of ways that we could mitigate it. Every single one of them cost a lot of money. And so as we then pulled out all the accident data, and there was no recorded accidents in that area in 10 years. And we have many areas in town where we have dozens and dozens or even up to 100 accidents in the last 10 years. And so we felt like that money would be better spent in more dangerous areas. But we weren't very happy with this. And so we actually changed the construction standards so that this couldn't happen. And so instead of just doing half plus 10, you have to do half plus 10 plus a 3-foot shoulder. And then coming from the shoulder, you have to go at a 3 or a 4 to 1 slope down to natural ground. And so that has actually prevented this from happening again. So.
Perfect. Any other comments? Seeing none, I'd entertain a motion.
I'll make a motion we approve ordinance number Z01-17, an ordinance changing the zoning designation and amending the official zoning map of Spanish Fork City for the Anthem Park zone change.
I'll second that.
Got a motion by Councilman Gordon, a second by Councilmember Beck. Since this is an ordinance, we'll do a roll call vote. Councilman Argal.
Aye.
Councilmember Beck.
Aye.
Councilman Gordon.
Aye.
Councilman Mendenhall.
Aye.
Councilman Scobes.
Aye.
That one passes. Okay, Cobblestone Townhome preliminary plat and zone change.
Catch that?
You're on the clock.
You just yelled at your time.
On that last one, we had both a preliminary plat and a zone change.
Oh,
I only caught that you took action on the zone change, but I might have missed something.
We didn't approve a preliminary plat.
Okay.
so
So
would
we-
you like to amend yours?
Well, don't we have to do them separate, Junior? Or
You can do them separate or together. If you've already done the one, I just do a separate one.
do a separate one? Motion to approve the preliminary plat for Anthem Park.
Second.
Got a motion by Councilman Gordon, a second by Councilman Argal. Same thing, roll call vote. Councilman Argal.
Aye.
Councilman Mendenhall.
Aye.
Councilman Scobes.
Aye.
Councilman Gordon.
Aye.
Councilmember Beck.
Aye.
You feel better now?
Absolutely.
Okay,
I think the
that's-
applicant does too.
I bet you would.
Nervous? We were just seeing if you were awake.
Yeah, there you go. Keep us on our toes. Okay, go ahead.
Cobblestone Townhomes. There's a piece of property on the corner of 1700 East and Canyon Road. I've heard it called the Old Drive Corral.
Oh.
2 almost and a half acres that some 13 or 14 years ago was zoned neighborhood commercial with the idea that, as I understand it, I wasn't here then, but that it would be a good site potentially for maybe a convenience store, maybe a little professional office project of some sort, something that would provide some services to this part of the community. I've been with the city for 11 years, and shortly after I got here back then, I started speaking with property owners, and I know of their effort to get somebody that wants to make some kind of non-residential use of this property, and their efforts have been extensive. I truly believe that they've looked under every rock, and they've exhausted the potential that they have to try to get, again, some type of non-residential development to happen here. Some of the groups that they've worked with certainly know what they're doing in terms of siting, for example, professional office developments and that sort of thing. And in light of the lack of success that they've had over the years, and something that for me personally has been a game changer. We can't zoom out with this image, but we can picture what we think is going to happen at 2550 East and US Highway 6 with a pretty good sized, for the environment that it's in, grocery store that we think will be under construction here very soon, and some other development that's going to come with that. Frankly, I think that probably is the death knell relative to being able to make some type of commercial development on this property justifiable. So we as staff, I think, had a little bit of a change of heart, within the last year relative to, boy, do we need to hold out for this to be available should a commercial opportunity come along, or should we work with the applicant to try to maybe put it to some kind of beneficial use in the near future? And a few months ago, with that question in mind, the applicant approached the Planning Commission just to have a very informal discussion about their effort again, and the prospect of putting some townhomes at this location. And without coming to any final conclusions, they got pretty positive feedback from the commission that that's something that they'd entertain. So subsequent to that, the applicants have made 2 applications. First of all, to change the zoning of the subject property from C1, or neighborhood commercial, to R3. And then with that as well, they've proposed the accompanying preliminary plat for a townhome development, which would allow them to have a total of 20 units in a master plan development on the subject property. We've looked at a number of different designs for the development, which, as proposed, it's pretty straightforward and simple. It'd just simply be 4 or 5 unit buildings accessed on a public street here, which is designed so that when the property to the north develops, it can simply tie into it. Then private driveways, parking here, in terms of just the number of spaces and room, the amount of space that's available exceeds what we've typically seen in projects of this nature. The applicants have submitted landscape plans that conform to the city's requirements. Tyler, if you could maybe scroll down to just some of the pictures that they gave us towards the end of the report, give the council some idea of what the units may look like. So the actual photographs. It's my understanding that this isn't intended to be taken as the absolute precise design that they'd utilize here, but to give everybody some idea the tile and the types of, the style and the different types of materials that they would plan to use. I think this gives us as the city a good baseline to use as we evaluate their more refined plans, to be able to say, hey, this either does or does not measure up to what you submitted when we discussed the preliminary plat. But frankly, from my perspective, fairly typical, contemporary kind of townhome design. Personally, I think at this point in time in particular, it's It's a very good use for the subject property for a few different reasons. I think that's a good location. First, a little bit higher density, and both the Planning Commission and Development Review Committee have recommended that the proposed zone change and preliminary plat both be approved.
Great. Thank you. Since this is a public hearing on this one, I'd entertain a motion to go into a public hearing.
So moved.
A motion by Councilman Scobes, a second by Councilmember Beck. Let's see. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Okay, we are now in public hearing. Anyone out there in the public would like to come and talk about this particular zone change? You're welcome to come up. Seeing none, I'd entertain a motion to go out of public hearing.
So moved.
Second.
Got a motion by Councilman Gordon, a second by Councilman Mendenhall. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any questions, comments?
Dave? Go back. Keep going, keep going. Keep going. Will there be a fence on the road?
That's a great question. We talked about how to handle that property line between Canyon Road and the development here. City ordinance, in one respect, would require that to be a solid masonry wall. We also have a little bit of latitude that the code gives us to consider another treatment or another option. And the Development Review Committee came up with an idea, and the Planning Commission considered it. They thought it was good. Given what this space is going to look like, it's going to be manicured lawn, be pretty attractive. Rather than to have a wall to screen that from public view in the road, we'd suggest that there be some type of a wrought iron, probably 6 feet tall, installed there simply to make sure that any kids that might be playing in the playground or that type of thing don't find their way to the road. But perhaps like was handled with the LDS church that was built a few years ago along the same stretch of road where that's not walled off, but you can see into it. It just seemed to us to make a more inviting part of that corridor if it wasn't screened off with a big sterile slab of concrete.
It gets fast on that highway. This is a playground then. This lot
Correct.
right there. Okay.
Right. So be secure. Here and here again, it'd be the wrought iron type fence. Here there would be a masonry wall because of the
Separate
use
the
that we have
residents.
right there to the east. But that's what we've suggested be done there.
They'll be going down like 6 feet to get rid of the manure, right?
6 feet to get rid. Relative to construction and the soils and things like that. I have no idea.
Stockyard been there since I can.
The trees will grow big and fast.
Big
I
and fast. And the
heard a
lawn will
lot
be
of
green.
cattle into that drive corral. So
Yes. Okay, thanks,
been
Dave.
there. Okay.
Couple quick questions for you. You mentioned the private drives into the townhouses. This one question kind of is everything. Will that become a city street back around that ties to that? And so my question is space for plowing. Is there enough access room for that, for EMS, things like that? I mean, I'm sure that's been planned or thought out, but can you talk to that? There is enough room, that is a city street now, that type of thing?
Right now, there's nothing there, of course,
Right.
but the way that this is designed, it's designed to meet our standards for a local street. So we would anticipate that be dedicated to the city and be, again, built to our standards from day one, which we haven't always handled situations like this in that manner. But frankly, I'm glad that we are where we are in terms of our approach of having these developments built with streets that meet our standards and that then we maintain, just like many of the other streets here in town. And with that, we believe to absolutely provide adequate access, good access for public safety vehicles and that sort of a thing. I will say this, we've had some interesting experiences in the last month or so, particularly with projects that are under construction, when there's all of a sudden a huge amount of snow introduced. But I'm glad that we don't necessarily design our world for that little window of time that happens just during construction. So yes, public streets, and we think they're adequate.
My last question with this is, can you speak to city inventory as far as density, housing? I know some people, as soon as they see, townhouses, they instantly rear up with, everyone's moving in and we're gonna be flooded with, with things like that. Can you just talk to, we've had those conversations, but just so the public watching are aware of where we are with inventory, with respect to apartments, townhouses, things like that.
You're gonna have to stop me. So tell me when I've said enough.
Okay.
In short, just maybe to talk a little bit about recent trends, and you guys all heard a little bit about this recently, but in 2016, we still didn't quite, I'm sorry, I need to take that back. We issued just as many building permits for new homes as what our averages had been going back nearly 25 years, I think. So our rate of growth, particularly if you take into account that we've grown and new growth as a percentage of our entire population, it's actually slowed down considerably since early 90s or 2000s and that type of a thing. Yet we continue to grow. We do expect that our inventory is going to grow in 2017. We're seeing a lot of development activity that we hadn't really seen since pre-recession days. Maybe more specifically to the kind of housing that's being built. One other thing that I thought was interesting about 2016, and for the most part it's a real departure from the norm for us, townhomes. Typically maybe 10% of the new homes that have been built in Spanish Fork in any given year have been multifamily of some kind. In 2016, it was about 33%. So pretty significant jump relative to just the amount of townhome construction that occurred. We've approved a few projects in recent years, and those are now getting built. That's a trend that we'll continue to see relative to just that composition of our inventory and how it's changing. I know that's a factor of home prices going up, and I was talking with somebody yesterday, and no longer can you consider single-family detached homes in Spanish Fork as being starter homes, for what you classify that market as being. Price just simply dictates that no longer works. Therefore, the development community and builders are responding by satisfying that demand with a cheaper product. And I think we're fortunate to have some locations in Spanish Fork where it makes sense to do this kind of development. You've heard me say that I don't think it makes sense anywhere in town necessarily or all over the place, and I appreciate that we've been a little bit deliberate at least in trying to find the right places for townhomes. I don't know if that's at all what you had in mind in asking about inventory, but that's...
No, that is. I think it's important for people to realize that not everyone can afford the single-family dwelling. Townhouses kind of fit that medium, and for those that have children that have gotten married and want to move back or want to live, mom and dad type of thing, Spanish Fork for many years has not had this type of housing or the inventory where they could live next to family and stuff. So you hit it. It's nice to see, but again, as you mentioned, this is not for all over the city either.
Great, thank you. Any other comments?
Are we signalizing this four ways, this intersection?
I think it'll be... Yes.
So four-way signal that's not there now.
Yes. Lighted intersection this summer?
We're hoping this summer. We're working with you, Don.
Not all of us are hoping.
I think that'll be nice.
Some of us wanted a roundabout there.
There you go.
Oh. Some of us want that whole road wider.
Good night, Mike.
No, I like roundabouts.
There you go.
I'm a roundabout guy. All right, I'll entertain a motion.
I make a motion, we approve ordinance number Z02-17, an ordinance changing the zoning designation and amending the official zoning map of Spanish Fork for the Cobblestone Townhome Zone change, and approve the preliminary plat.
Second.
Got a motion by Councilman Mendenhall, a second by Councilman Gordon. This will be a roll call vote. Councilman Scobes.
Aye.
Councilman Mendenhall.
Aye.
Councilman Gordon.
Aye.
Councilmember Beck.
Aye.
Councilman Argal.
Aye.
That is approved. Okay, 450 East, 1000 North zone change.
On that one there, preliminary plat, is that part of the motion?
Yeah, they did, yeah. Mike did it right.
Once Thank again.
Golden boy.
Play nice.
It hasn't been very many months since we looked at a similar change for the property that's just east of the subject property. So this is right in the middle of the block of 400 East and 10th North, south side of 10th North. I'm going to be really brief. The council approved a zone change here, somewhat sight unseen without knowing what an end user was going to be, but for a lot of reasons, mostly consistency with their general plan and the expectation that retail uses will eventually, if not really soon, happen on the south side of 10th North. It was without a ton of discussion that this zone change was approved here. Again, in 2016, not a long time ago. It's actually a developer who has this property here under contract, or these properties, that's initiated the zone change proposal for this parcel here, so as to hopefully be able to have enough room to make the project that he wants to have happen here work. So it's just adding one other property to the area that's already been zoned, Commercial 2. Currently it's zoned R16. The Development Review Committee and Planning Commission have both recommended that this change be approved.
Okay, I'd entertain a motion to go into public hearing.
So moved.
Second.
Got a motion by Councilmember Beck, second by Councilman Mendenhall. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Anyone from the public like to come up and talk about this particular zone change? You're welcome. Seeing none, I'd entertain a motion to go out of public hearing.
So moved.
Got a motion by Councilman Gordon, second by Councilman Mendenhall. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any comments? Seeing none, I'd entertain a motion.
Is this just the next house west?
Correct.
Is that what it
Just that
is?
one.
Okay.
For now, at least.
I'll make a motion to approve the ordinance number Z03-17, an ordinance changing the zoning designation and amending the official zoning map of Spanish Fork City for 450 East zone change.
Second.
Got a motion by Councilman Member Beck and a second by Councilman Mendenhall. This is a roll call vote. Councilmember Beck.
Aye.
Councilman Gordon.
Aye.
Councilman Mendenhall.
Aye.
Councilman Scobes.
Aye.
Councilman Argal.
Aye.
That passes. Maple Park preliminary plat and ordinance change.
Again, thank you, Mayor. Also on this one, we have two different parts, a proposed zone change and proposed preliminary plat. For this one and Maple Mountain Estates, which is on your agenda down a little bit further, the impetus for the proposal to change these plats is kind of a grand plan from my perspective, bigger picture kind of plan, which ultimately we hope would result in an additional set of railroad tracks being installed in this railroad corridor right here, which is in every place where it isn't today, will be the boundary between Spanish Fork and Mapleton. So the subject property that we're talking about right now is east of Maple Mountain High School, right out here. It abuts the railroad tracks, and potentially this second set of tracks that would be here would happen with the removal of the tracks, if you can picture this, that right now kind of parallel State Road 51 and then US Highway 6, which does wonders in terms of making some other transportation projects feasible, as well as I think really would enhance just some neighborhoods that we have that abut those railroad tracks. So that's a project that some of you have been very involved with that. We hope happens, and in order to encourage that, we appreciate the applicant working with us. I can't overstate that. We appreciate the applicant working with us. We approved both Maple Park and Maple Mountain Estates within the last couple of years. There's construction that's happening there right now here, and We took something of a timeout several months ago to say, wait, if you develop right up to the existing railroad tracks, then we may have a really big problem down the road in achieving this goal that we have of consolidating tracks into that line. And with that, the applicant went back to the drawing board, worked with his engineer to redesign both projects to set aside 50 feet of additional corridor that parallels those tracks. That'll be dedicated to the city so that we'll have the space that we need and won't need to impact those adjacent homeowners in any kind of a direct way should that project happen. So again, I can't overstate how good I think it is of the applicant to work with us the way that he has on this project. Now, with respect to this particular project here, this is part of the Nelson annexation, and when the project was originally approved, at the time that the property was annexed, it only included this much land here. So with the annexation, this area that's in yellow was zoned R112. Well, one thing in the case of this project that I think is maybe fortuitous for the developer is that in the last several months, he's been able to put this little triangular shaped piece of land under contract as well. So with the redesign, not only will you see that there's this additional land, this corridor that's been set aside for the railroad relocation, but this area here has been incorporated into the subdivision as well. In fact, Tyler, can you scroll down to one of the images, probably the next page? So now you have to bear with me because north is over here instead of up above as it was on the previous image. You can see here, this is the corridor that's been set aside. This is the land that's been added to the design. This was really important, in my opinion, even though we didn't have any way to compel that property owner to participate with this development before, to try to develop that area configured the way that it was with a railroad track on its eastern boundary like it has, that would have been horrible. It would have probably been a cul-de-sac with a few lots that just would not make a lot of sense. So I think this is great for everybody in terms of putting the land to an efficient, functional kind of use. As proposed, the development meets the city's requirements for master plan developments in the R112 zone, just like it did before. So the proposed zone change really just involves that part right there that currently is zoned rural residential, so changing that from rural residential to R112, and then approving the proposed master plan development, the amendment of Maple Park Estates. Both the Development Review Committee and Planning Commission have recommended that they be approved.
Great. I'd entertain a motion to go into public hearing.
So moved.
Second.
Got a motion by Councilman Mendenhall, a second by Councilman Scobes. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Anyone from the public like to come and talk about this subdivision? Seeing none, I'd entertain a motion to go out of public hearing.
So moved.
Second?
A motion by Councilman Gordon, a second by Councilmember Beck. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any discussions, comments?
So, Dave, that 50-foot, I mean, that's great because we're all hoping that'll happen with the railroad tracks. That'll save me hundreds of hours straightening pictures. So what would happen if that didn't? Would that just remain 50 feet behind those homes?
Yeah.
Maybe, I guess, a walking path or
Could
something
be
if
something
there's
like
something like
that
that in the
someday,
future?
yeah.
Okay. But it will be the city's property for now?
That's what's proposed, yeah,
Okay.
dedicated to the city.
Okay, I'd entertain a motion.
I move we approve the Maple Park preliminary plat and ordinance Z04-17, changing the zoning designation and amending the official zoning map of Spanish Fork City for the Maple Park zone change and the preliminary plat.
I'll second that.
Got a motion by Councilman Mendenhall, a second by Councilmember Beck. This will be a roll call vote. Councilman Gordon.
Aye.
Councilman Mendenhall.
Aye.
Councilman Scobes.
Aye.
Councilman Argal.
Aye.
Councilman Beck.
Aye.
That one passes. Okay, ordinance 03-17, amending our setbacks.
Okay, so setbacks are the required distance that somebody has to have between something that they build and a property line, or sometimes something that they build in another building. And we take those seriously here in Spanish Fork. We have laws that require what the setbacks are. This chart that's right there defines what the law is in many of the cases here in town. That being said, the proposal that's before you tonight is pretty simple, and I don't think would make any dramatic changes. You can see that we're proposing in some cases to reduce our front setback for projects in our commercial 2 zone or general commercial zone from 20 feet to 15 feet. And then on the corner, building in this range. And with that, still requiring that there's a certain distance from buildings and actual street space. So from the curb to the building, requiring a certain separation there. I'm trying to give you the real short version, but I'll just mention that in kind of just the modern train of site design thought, sometimes it's better to have a building close to the street than to have all the parking right by the street and the building farther away. And in our case here, a lot of times where we have power lines, as is the case on most of the blocks that surround this part of the community here, we have power lines that are on the interior of the blocks, which is another thing that in a lot of ways makes it beneficial to have buildings out closer to the street and parking behind. This change came about as we were looking at a site. In fact, we have a development application for the property. It's on the corner of 7th East and 7th North. We picture that vacant property there, I would say behind or to the west of AutoZone, where for a lot of different reasons, we think it makes sense to put that building closer to the corner of 7th East and 7th North and have the parking behind it. And this change just gives somebody another 5 feet to work with, makes it a little bit more feasible to fit what somebody's trying to do on the property. And in my view, really has absolutely no adverse impact on any of the things that we're trying to accomplish with setbacks. So that was more than I'd hoped to say, because it really is a pretty simple proposal. Both the Planning Commission and Development Review Committee have recommended that it be approved.
Great. I'd entertain a motion to go into public hearing.
So moved.
Second.
Got a motion by Councilman Gordon, second by Councilmember Beck. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
We're in public hearing. Anyone here that would like to talk about this, or sure welcome to come up? Boy, we're batting 1,000. I'd entertain a motion to go out of public hearing.
So moved.
Second.
A motion by Councilman Gordon, a second by Councilman Scobes. Any comments, discussion?
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Oh, excuse me, all in favor? Got it. Thank you.
I had a question, just real quick. How does this compare to neighboring communities?
It depends on the situation. One thing that we talked about relative to kind of commercial districts and commercial quarters and things like that, for example, in Provo now, you'll see with a lot of regularity where you don't have 15 feet, you have much less than that between a sidewalk and a building. We don't think we're quite ready for that in a lot of cases, even though we have 4 blocks of historic Main Street that was absolutely built on that same kind of model. So I would call this maybe a baby step in the direction of a really progressive kind of a site design set of regulations, but not as aggressive as some other places are being.
That's good. That's kind of the community I was thinking of as you were making your comments, so thank you.
Okay, I'd entertain a motion.
Motion to approve ordinance 0317, making amendment to the setback requirement in the C0 and C2 zones.
Second.
Got a motion by Councilman Argyle, a second by Councilman Scobes. This will be a roll call vote. Councilman Mendenhall.
Aye.
Councilman Scobes.
Aye.
Councilman Argyle.
Aye.
Councilmember Beck.
Aye.
Councilman Gordon.
Aye.
That one approves. Next one, ordinance 0417, amended in various sections of Title 15.
We currently have a need, we think as staff, and we've worked with some other people that agree, we have a need to clarify some language that we have in Title 15 that describes what certain types of walls are. And that's really what the proposed changes tonight are about. So we use some different phraseology today in our zoning code. This effort would make that consistent throughout Title 15. Seems like a simple thing, something I frankly wish I would have done a few years ago, but didn't really even come to mind until we started talking about some other things in some pretty explicit detail. And to touch on another aspect of this, there are situations where we require, as we talked about a little bit on the townhome project a few minutes ago, for example, a concrete wall. So if you can picture streets like 2550 East in certain cases, or 4th North, Arrowhead Trail, where we have concrete walls that have been installed along those roads. It's because of the type of road that it is and the city's desire to have a boundary installed between the public right-of-way and private property that's going to last for a long time, that's going to help make that neighborly situation between the public realm and private space as functional as possible. It's going to help control access and do different things like that. So for many years, we've mandated that certain improvements be made along public streets, at least certain types of public streets. There are also situations, for example, if somebody wants to develop a commercial project of some kind right next to somebody's house, we require them to build a certain kind of wall along that property line. Again, same idea, trying to mitigate the impact maybe that new use is going to have on the previous use, that residential property, as much as we can, and so forth. And there are these different situations that you can read about in just this few pages of text that we have here, where we mandate that certain types of walls be used. And we've made an effort to clarify what we're talking about when we describe a concrete or a masonry wall. So per this definition, which is new, we're simply talking about something that some of you guys I know are really familiar with, some of you might not be. It's a precast concrete product, really heavy, really big, fairly expensive, and that's what's typically been installed throughout the community and other communities around us. Also, a masonry wall, that's blocks of some kind that are held together by some type of mortar and so forth. And those are things that our code historically has allowed. In fact, that we've required per our code in certain situations. And then aside from that, we have fencing. There are some situations in town where we require fences, and we've made an effort with these definitions simply to describe what one is and what the other is. Seems simple, but I think it's very necessary to do. And that's really what these proposed changes are all about. Just to touch on one other thing briefly, one of the issues that brought this to the point where we as staff felt like it was necessary to propose the changes that you'll see tonight. It's a new product. It's lighter. You've probably seen some of it around town, and it's and Junior will help us here in a minute get the right description of it in terms of a definition, but it's essentially foam panels that are encapsulated with some type of fiberglass and concrete mixture to where they look a lot like some of the other heavy concrete walls. And with these changes here, we simply would be defining that those are great and certainly allowed for use any place in town where anybody might want to install a fence, or where we might require a fence to be installed. But in those situations where we're talking about a concrete wall, they wouldn't qualify. So that being said, both the Development Review Committee and Planning Commission have talked about the proposed changes and recommend that it be approved. And again, maybe before you take any action. If you want to do that tonight, we'll have Junior help us make sure we get that language the way that he wants it.
Thank you. Make a motion, we go into public hearing.
So moved.
Second.
A motion by Councilman Argal. Second by Councilman Gordon. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Anyone from the public like to come and talk? Come right up. Well,
Guess I'm the first one.
well, the scout raised his hand, but we'll let you get in there before him. That's all right.
Yeah, I'm sorry I didn't see him there.
That's okay.
Brian Morrow is my name. I'm the president of a company here in Provo, Utah called Rhino Rock, and some of you are probably familiar with it. I've addressed the city council on occasions. It's been quite some distance in the past. I think most of the council has changed since that time, so some of you may be somewhat familiar with our product. And I think that me speaking, it may be relevant just because it was our product that kind of spurred this and made some of the city staff look at this. And so I think it would be helpful to you if you better understood so that you can make a decision on what you want to do in regards to this. So the definition that's up here in fence there at the end, and I think Junior is going to try to describe it a little bit more accurately.
I think we'll use the GFRC.
Yeah. So they're probably going to change that. So to describe our product, basically what it is that it's a glass fiber reinforced concrete that totally encapsulates a foam core, is what it is. And as a result of that, it can be cast into the same shapes as any other typical heavy concrete fence. It looks, if you were to drive by one of those, one of our lightweight fences, in fact, our company has been around since 1996. In fact, the very first heavy concrete fence that went into Spanish Fork City was ours back in 1996 out on Highway 6. And so we have a long history in Spanish Fork. And just to give you kind of a history of what happened and why we arrived at where we're at, is that we did heavy concrete fencing for a long time, for quite a few years. In fact, most of the heavy concrete fencing out the mouth of the canyon was our product. And if you looked at the heavy concrete fencing and our lightweight, virtually you can't really tell by looking at it. You can go up and tap on it and it sounds a little bit different. The reason that we developed it was for one main reason, is that after installing the heavy product for a while, we realized that it was a dangerous aspect of being able to install it. We had some close calls with our employees. These panels weigh several thousand pounds, and we had some close calls, and as the director of the company, we didn't want to take that risk, so we started working on developing a lightweight product that would be safer. In fact, in Utah, there's been 2 people killed installing the heavy precast concrete fencing. That's why we changed. We still have the ability to be able to do the heavy concrete fencing, but we've decided not to do it as a policy of our company. So all that we produce now is our lightweight product. The lightweight panel is virtually about the same size as the heavy, but rather than weighing 3,000 pounds, they weigh 250 pounds. So they're not heavy enough to be dangerous. And so that's why we developed it. And obviously I'm a little saddened by this, because if this ordinance is passed, then obviously it would preclude our product from basically the majority of the areas in which developers are developing, and are basically going to limit their options as far as what they can use. I mean, they can use a precast or a block. There are very, very few precasters in the state of Utah. The recession forced most of them out of business. There are still mainly one. There is another one that does some. But anyway, so we're a little concerned about that. So if this passes, then it's going to preclude our product from there. And I think that one of the issues that came along is that we've done some projects for the city. We've actually been hired by the city and done some projects. We did one down along the Spanish Fork Trail. And in that particular project, there were a number of panels that had some defects into it that caused some additional expansion within the material and caused some warping in it and some weakening of the material. And so that was brought to our attention during this time, we immediately went in through our warranty process, replaced those panels, and have since purchased some expensive testing equipment to be able to test for that, to be able to rule that out. So that's what's brought it about. And so unfortunately, that happened. And so I think, you know, I've always been an innovator. I've always tried to think of better ways of being able to do things. And with this product, we actually ship it around the country now. In fact, more than half of all the product that we produce is now shipped out of the state of Utah. And so we ship it all over. I would hope that as a council that you would be able to look at this with an open mind. We make mistakes, right? I mean, every company that produces something that's an innovation over what else is being done, mistakes are made, right? And how is that rectified? Well, you learn from your mistake, and if there was a mistake, then you honor it through your warranty and you take care of it. And and then you learn from that mistake and you try to not do it again, right? And so that's what we have done. It's not a new product. It's been out for about 8 years. We have about 750,000 feet of this fencing around the country up now. We have several 100,000 in Utah. And so it's not a new product. And so I would hope that you would look at this for a couple of reasons. Number one is that by limiting this, it's going to make everything else, it's going to limit competition, is what's going to happen. The developers, my opinion has been, is that let the market decide what's best, right? If it's a crappy product, then the developers are going to see that, right? And they're going to not choose that. And that happens at times. I mean, a big majority of the fencing that's done out here is the heavy precast. We don't have a lot of inroads with the product. We've had, I think, 9 or 10 locations of where we've installed this product in the city in the past. And so I don't think that there's a danger that with our product that's all that's going to go in. I think the market decides and people decide what to do. So it's going to limit competition. It's going to force the pricing up. I know this because I've worked with our competition for years. And when they know that because we don't do a certain pattern or somehow our product is precluded, the price goes up. And so it's going to limit competition. If you look at composite building structures, I mean, look at your houses. I mean, they're not a solid material, they're a composite material. I mean, you can take a sledgehammer to the side of your house and poke right through it, right? They're now building roads on top of foam. In fact, the temple parking lot for the Provo Temple was built on all foam because of it. I think it's one of the greatest products that's there, and I think that in the next 10 years, I think that you will see a lot of building construction methods that will use the combination of foam and concrete. It's going to happen. I already see it. We're actually working on that also. But I would hope that you would look at this, and just because it's something that you may not be familiar with, or it's something that when I talked to we had sent a letter to Junior, and his response to us is that they felt like our product was okay. They just didn't want to handle this situation through a warranty. They didn't want to have to worry about something in the future. But I brought a couple booklets. These are just, you can pass these around if you want. But these are actually just some snapshots of different heavy concrete fencing that's around the area in different areas. It's not subject to being perfect either. I mean, it has limitations also. I mean, how many of you have a driveway that's spalling, right, and have concrete coming off everywhere? I mean, it's not a type of, it's a good product, but it's also subject to limitations also. So I think that in the same way that our product could have some limitations, so could the heavy concrete fencing. And so, anyway, any questions that you might have for me?
We're in public hearing, so we'll once we close that, we'll talk, and then if we want to bring you up, we'll have you come back up. Anyone else? Come on up here, young man. State your name.
Scott Packard. So what I'm hearing is that depending on where you live and like if you meet certain requirements, you may have to build a wall. like a wall, and that'd be kind of weird because, like, who wants a wall? So,
Great.
yeah.
Great, we'll answer that after we go out of public hearing. Anyone else that'd like to come up? If not, I entertain a motion to go out of public hearing.
So moved. Second.
Got a motion by Councilman Mendenhall, a second by Councilman Gordon. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All right,
Who wants a wall, Mayor?
who wants a wall?
Hey, address the scouts,
Yeah.
you know, one of the townhome subdivision that we just approved, you're right, some instances the city doesn't want a wall. We opted for a wrought iron fence instead because there's going to be pretty landscaping and pretty grass on the other side of that, and why I always cover that up. So sometimes you're right, the city doesn't want a wall there. We want people to be able to see in there and see out of it, so you're spot on.
Good job. Of course, you don't have a wall in the backyard, do you, of your house? There you go, you're good.
Now Seth will give you, that's a good enough question for a piece of candy before we leave, Seth. But it's going to have to be all the scouts.
I think all I have here is a lifesaver
Not going to do it.
A lightsaber.
or that. So do you have a fence in your backyard? You've got a wall. I can't believe. Okay.
Nice.
There you go. All right.
You have candy in your drawer?
No. No. I can't confirm or deny that. All right. Any other questions, maybe anybody that would like to address? Well, what? Oh, yeah, you got candy. Oh, it's funny.
There's candy in it?
We're out of.
What?
Is this question regarding the wall?
Well, it was, yeah, or the
It's
fence.
just for us now.
Oh, you don't? Well, let us finish this discussion, then I'll have you come up, okay? You okay with that? All right, thank you.
Was Junior going to define something? What,
We're just proposing that we use the more formal term that Brian referred to. It's a GFRC. It's a glass fiber reinforced concrete. And so that's the more accurate term. So we're just proposing that we use that in the definition there.
So that doesn't change the change of the concrete, solid concrete?
No, it's not changing where that's going or the intent, what the ordinance says. It's just giving a more accurate description of that product.
I think part of, for me, what began this conversation, or as this conversation began and I started doing research was not so much about warranty work, and I appreciate staff bringing that up. But as you mentioned, Brian, it wasn't, for me, you know, I understand how warranty work can come from all products, right? Because even like your pictures here, they're probably warranting, you know, a masonry wall or these precast walls, just like you have done. I think it was strictly Mendenhall, Councilman Mendenhall and I, we were able to take a field trip and look at your product and other product around the community. It was aesthetics, and it was how long is it going to last, safety. Is it going to stop a car if a car jumps a curb and goes into somebody's backyard? And then it was, you know, graffiti, vandalism, things of those nature. That's really what had me intrigued about the process. And so it was fun to drive around, and near Maple Mountain you can see quite a different, you know, you can see your product and that of two other different landscapers all within, a landscaper and then another precast company, right? So I guess my question would be, what is the price per foot difference? Does it vary, obviously, if I'm putting in a mile, right? Than if I'm putting in just a yard.
Are you addressing me?
Yeah, I think that's probably the best question. You're the best one to answer that
And you
question.
can come, you can come up, and because he's asked you to come up.
Typically, most of the developers have found that with our product, it is less expensive, typically anywhere from 15 to 25% less. If the other person that we compete against, the company that we compete against, knows that we're bidding on it, then sometimes it's less than that. So, and then if they know that we're not bidding or not able to bid on it, then it can typically go up significantly. So it just depends. And so, but traditionally with apples to apples, we're typically probably 15 to 25% less in cost, just because it can be installed faster, things like that.
Okay, and then you mentioned limited competition. I mean, while we were talking, I Googled Utah County and found 3 others besides yourself that would be able to install it, do a precast concrete fence. Is there really only one, or is Harper doing it now? Is it?
Harper does a little.
Is it?
Well, there's Harper. They've done a little bit. There's Olwell Precast and there's Olympus Precast, but they're the same company. They just changed their name. They
Olympus
established
is
another.
Olwell?
Yes.
Okay.
It's the same company. And so Harper does most of the concrete fencing along the freeways. So they focus mostly on the UDOT walls. In fact, I'm not aware of any Harper Precast here in Spanish Fork, unless somebody knows. It's all Olwell. Yeah, or Olympus is what it is. And
There's
so
some landscapers that have self-done
right,
these,
there's a company called Creteco that does, I don't know if they're still in business or not, but they're the ones that do the slatted concrete fence where they come in like 1 foot. The posts are close together, and under this ordinance, that would still be allowed. So as far as the standard precast, it's basically one company.
That helps us, certainly, us that are bankers and insurance agents and things like that. So thank you, Brian. Or, excuse me, Mayor. Yeah, whatever you are.
Didn't want to get left out.
I imagine it was cost why we used it on our projects. Am I accurate in saying that, staff? In the projects that we've used? Or, because to me, I don't think we're comparing to the same thing. It's this fiberglass type product it looks the same, but it's not the same. So, but
Yeah, that's the concern that we have is it hasn't been around as long, and so there is some question on how long it will hold up. And we recently had 2 projects where quite a few of the panels failed, and they were good to warranty them out, but the feeling is maybe it's not tested long enough yet for longer roads. And so that's why the ordinance.
Anyone else have any questions on this?
I'm reading through the language, and in paragraph D, page 3, that goes to 4, does read that the council may also waive the requirement for concrete and masonry wall if a park or open space area is adjacent to such street. The council may waive all fencing requirements or impose non-site obscuring fencing at their sole discretion. Would that speak to us being able to say this is an area maybe where we don't need concrete fencing and look at Brian's product, or are we precluding or excluding the product itself?
That's pretty much giving you discretion.
Correct.
That's what you just did, I think, with the cobblestone.
Right.
That's what-
fence rather than
Yeah.
It also,
We went to the wrought iron fence.
On
Right.
Canyon Road so yeah.
I don't think it was meant to do a site obscuring.
Okay. I appreciate some of what Brandon mentioned, and Brian, I appreciate you being here too and speaking to this. I don't think personally, and I can't speak for the rest of the council, but I don't think in my history on the council, granted it's been only 3 years, that I see any of us against the free market and the enterprise. I think we try to definitely lean on that side more than anything. And I think that's in good faith, and I think that's good local government. Again, it's a little broken record of what I've been saying tonight, but local government is in a way nimble enough and not completely clunky like other large forms of government that you make a change and then you can't make a change at a later date. That what I'm getting at is when you're here saying, you know, technology is changing in the industry and you're looking at some different things. This is something that I feel could be revisited when there's, like Chris mentioned, when there is some proof, some longer time frame with it. For me, that would be something that I'd always be open to, because I wouldn't want to shut people out of the market. But I do see the wisdom in some time to get under the feet of a product like this too before it's all over. You want to speak to that? Sure.
We had a city down in South Jordan, in kind of a similar circumstance where they were looking at this, and the same thing, some of the city council and some of the staff were, because it was a fairly new product and they weren't really familiar with it and it didn't have a long history. They were a little bit worried about it. And so what they did is that they just created an ordinance, and then within the motion, they made it that within a certain period of time that they would relook at it. And they actually did it the opposite, though. They allowed it, and then they said that it was mandatory. I think they did it 2 years from that date, that the city council had to come back to it and look at it again and make an evaluation based upon a longer period of time. And that was 2.5 years ago. South Jordan City came back up through and they were fine. And so they left it the way that it was. And so you can also do something like that. I mean, we've been here for 21 years. We're a Utah company. We're not going away. We're continuing to improve our product all the time and continuing to make changes and acquiring additional testing material, testing equipment to be able to take this to make it a better product.
Sure.
That's what we're trying to do. So you could do something like that. I would appreciate it that if you did decide to vote to preclude it, I would hope that you would at least put into the amendment or the minutes that the city council would relook at this in a period of time. Because if you don't, it's never going to happen, right? I mean, it's just going to get sit into the ordinance, and then the staff is just going to tell everybody what's allowed and what's not allowed, and it's not going to come back up again.
That's possible. It's possible you could be looking at a different, 6 faces up here, right? I have one question for you. When did you stop doing concrete? Do you still have your molds? Do you have the capability of still doing precast product?
We still have the capability of doing it, and we still have the molds. It's just that we're a closely held company. It's my wife and I who are the owners of the company, and we just honestly got tired of worrying about it. I mean, we just didn't want to wait for the phone call from one of our employees. We knew it was just a matter of time, and it's going to happen again to other people who are installing it, because it just takes one mistake, and then, if they don't attach things, and the panel comes over on them, and we just decided. We had a formal meeting about it, and we just voted that we wouldn't do the heavy precast, and we knew that there would be situations in which we would lose business because of that. But we decided that we would expand our business into other areas where they had a need for that. And so that's just a choice we made as a company. So we actually mothballed all of our heavy precast molds and left it alone.
Gotcha. Okay.
Thank you. I appreciate you speaking to the safety of that, Brian, too. And that's really what, in our field trip, one trip that I had to take to Payson, and I think people could probably remember this because it was covered in the news pretty good, but they had a pretty bad corner going north to south in Payson that was vinyl fencing, and what should have been, I don't know if they've corrected it now or not, but what should have probably been more than vinyl fencing that cars were going through on a pretty good clip, and ended up in the back of yards there. I think a precast fence on our collector roads would hopefully take a little bit better care of that. I know there's probably data that you'd say different, but that would be the safety concern that I think we have a responsibility to look at, is if that helps on those collector roads more than anything.
Right. Any other comments?
Mayor, may I make one just really quick? I'm sorry.
Yes,
just
you
really
may.
fast. I wanted to, I don't normally do this in a setting like this, but express appreciation to Brian for the process that he's allowed us to walk through. He was very open in allowing us to go to his plant, look at the processes that he follows, and has been helpful in tweaking some of the language in this, and really, frankly, he's been an upstanding dude. really appreciate his patience, his efforts, and I think the thoughts that he shared today with giving some direction in the discussion to say, keep looking at this, is a great suggestion, and frankly, right in line with what he's been doing with us all along. I appreciate, I didn't know this, but I appreciated a moment ago when he said, based on some of the things that they found in the panels that we had purchased and have in some of the places, that they've added some equipment and some testing and are tweaking that. It's one thing that's impressive about some of the businesses in this valley, that they really care about their products, and he's trying to make it better. So we appreciate his efforts, and I think, frankly, all along the way, every suggestion he's given has been a great one, bona fide and in value. So I just wanted to share that.
I like the 2-year idea, Brian, that you talked about. I guess I'd,
If you add that to your motion.
yeah, if that's,
That'd be all right, wouldn't it, Junior? Yeah.
a decade. Oh, yeah, of your product in production.
Right. So, if you're ready, go ahead.
I'd make that motion. I'd make a motion to approve ordinance 417, amending various sections of Title 15 concerning walls and fences, with the addition of the requirement of looking at this product and its progression in at least 2 years time. Unless something comes up sooner and you want to present, obviously you can do that anytime.
You always have the opportunity to come back to the council, because we can make it whatever changes we want.
Yep.
So, okay, I've got a motion by Councilman Mendenhall,
Second.
second by Councilman Gordon. This is a roll call vote. Councilman Argal?
Aye.
Councilman Member Beck?
Aye.
Councilman Gordon?
Aye.
Councilman Mendenhall?
Aye.
Councilman Scobes?
Aye.
Okay, that passes with those additions. Okay, new business. Local Public Safety Firefighter Survival Spouse Trust Fund. How's the Scouts hanging in there? You doing all right, Scouts?
Just saying, I have a question.
Oh, that's right. Sorry, Junior, you're up next. No, are you sure? I don't want to deny you of that.
I just had a question.
Okay.
So this is concerning Spanish Fork Parks and Rec.
Okay.
I've done sports after sports, and I just have one little question. So the officials that you guys have, I just think that they could use a little more training.
Boy, I
Or
like
at least
that.
have a book with them. Volleyball is fine. It's coached by the refs. Last year basketball is fine. It was coached by the refs. But I think the officials, since they're being paid, I think they just need just a wee bit more training, or at least a book with them. So they just don't just say what they think it is. They say what the book says, and that's just all I have to say.
I like that. Thank
Hey,
you.
come here, I have a treat for you.
Whoa, you're just gonna make this meeting go longer.
Nice.
All right, we'll let you go.
Wait. We need to address his question.
This will be the last
We
one.
need to address his question.
Where's
That-
Dale?
Huh?
Dale left.
We need
Did
to
he
address
leave?
his question.
Well, where's Dell?
Oh, you
First
want
of
to
all-
address it?
first
We're
of
gonna
all,
turn
we-
that over to the Parks and Rec?
Well, we want to know, is he playing,
Because-
and did he win or lose that game? Because that taints the opinion of the
I
party
used to
report.
officiate the rec league, and after I left, I don't know what happened to him, because I was awesome. I was never wrong. I never made a call that was wrong.
One of the greatest.
Oh yeah, they did.
Still doesn't wear glasses. Be prepared when you're 13 or 14. You're gonna get a call to umpire or referee basketball.
butt.
That's what happens.
Yep.
But it's
Yeah,
good.
well,
They do.
we just lost one of our greatest umpires of all time, Claire.
Claire Durant.
You could hear him from here to the ballpark, calling strikes.
All right, state your name.
Okay, my name's Ethan Goslin, and you were talking about building the railroad over by the Maple Mountain High School, and I was wondering, since there's that big road in front of it, if the railroad would go through the road, because if it did, I have to drive on the road every day, so how would it affect traffic if it did go through the road?
It'll go right along where the railroad track is, so you'd have two tracks there.
Okay.
And so they would put some different cross guardings on that, just so you're safe.
Okay.
Mayor, tell them why they split.
Huh?
Why did they split in Springville and join back at the mouth of the canyon?
Why did they?
Because the older trains couldn't get the gumph.
To get up
when
the
they were
mountain.
Loaded to
Couldn't
go
make the
up
grade.
the mountain. So they took them around and put the tracks up by Mapleton so that the trains could get the
Okay.
speed that they needed to back in the day. Now trains, you know,
Can
are
make
a lot
it.
more efficient and can make it. So that's why they separated them, because they're right by this in Springville, and then they go like this, and they come back at the mouth of Spanish Fork Canyon.
Well, now you know the rest of the story.
Yeah,
Hey,
exact-
thank you.
Helper.
Hey,
Yeah.
someone needs to
Study the city.
Pony up there, Mike.
I got him. I got him.
For the record, I've had a few comments.
They haven't been
All
as
I've got is a
incisive.
You're not in
lifesaver.
uniform.
All I got is a lifesaver out of this. Ooh,
Yeah,
it's a
get in
fire
uniform.
Yeah. What was the
Guys,
last
we
scout's
really
name?
appreciate you guys being here.
What was your
and
name?
Thank you. Yeah, don't stay here all night. You don't have to stay for a whole meeting. You only have to
Yeah.
be here for an hour.
Welcome to stay.
Yeah, I know it. Great.
All right.
Thank you, guys.
Work, guys.
Ethan Grossley.
Okay,
You and I are meeting tomorrow.
I've got some stuff things there.
okay. All right, we're gonna change up a little bit here.
just little 5x7.
We're gonna go to our RDA. So,
I move we go into RDA.
got a motion by Councilman Gordon. Second by Councilman Scobes. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
We're now in RDA.
I make a motion to approve the minutes.
Got a motion by Councilman Gordon, a second by Councilman Mendenhall. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Okay, Junior.
The next item on the agenda for the RDA is the John Lynn Walker agreement. Ms. Walker is a consultant we've used in the past who does a cost-benefit analysis for us when we were doing projects for our redevelopment agency to bring business to the community. And we're looking to create a new area. We'll get to that in some later business. But we need this contract with Ms. Walker so that we can comply with the legal requirements to show a cost-benefit analysis for some incentives that we'll be asked to give and showing that in the long run that we'll reap a larger benefit than the cost. So the cost is an hourly rate of $90 per hour, not to exceed $6,300 plus their out-of-pocket expenses. And if we change the scope, then it'll be billed $90 an hour. So it's possible it could exceed that, but it's honestly not very likely. So we are asking you to approve the contract with John Lynn Walker for those consulting services.
Okay. Any discussion on that? If not, I'd entertain a motion.
I'll make a motion to approve the Donaldin Walker agreement.
Got a motion by Councilmember Beck,
Second.
second by Councilman Mendenhall. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Okay.
So the second item is to approve a contract with Smith Hartwigson. So as we get into creation of RDAs, and the law just changed in the 2016 legislative session, so we're dealing with some brand new stuff. And Smith Hartwigson is a law firm in Salt Lake who's got a lot of experience in RDA work. They were instrumental in helping draft this law, and so we have hired them to help us create this redevelopment area. We need a contract with them, and they're proposing rates ranging from $115 per hour for some of their paralegals up to $290 per hour for Craig himself. They've indicated an overall estimate is around $5,000 or $6,000 to create this new area for us. So we need to approve the contract with them so they can help us form this area and make it meet all the new legal requirements.
Okay, any discussion? If not, I'd entertain a motion.
I'll make a motion we approve the Smith Hartwigson PLLC agreement.
Second.
Got a motion by Councilman Gordon, a second by Councilman Argal. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
So
Okay.
the last item is what is called a kickoff resolution to help us create this. And Craig Smith from Smith Hartwigson has come down from Salt Lake to present that and to talk to us about the creation, what we need to do. And with that, I'll turn the time to Craig.
Good evening. My name is Craig Smith. I'm here, obviously, on behalf of the agency. This is the resolution we're asking the board to consider tonight is the resolution that allows the beginning of the process of creating a project area. It doesn't require the agency to create a project area. It just starts the wheels in motion. There are a number of public steps that happen before we have the project area created, including preparing a plan, having public hearings, preparing a budget. That's John Lynn Walker will work with that. And one of the things I'd like to make sure people understand that the agency, the decisions like this are made by the agency board, and you folks are the agency board, so you'll make the decision as to whether or not to do this. This allows us to just prepare the things that will be considered by the agency board in creating a project area. So that's why we call it a kickoff resolution. It's kind of the common nomenclature. Happy to answer any questions if you have any questions about what you're being asked to do tonight.
Questions? Great. Thank you.
Thank you.
Appreciate you.
Thank you.
Thanks.
I'd entertain a motion.
I'll make a motion to approve resolution RDA number 1701, authorizing the creation of the Corona Community Reinvestment Area.
Second.
Got a motion by Councilmember Beck, second by Councilman Scobes. This will be a roll call vote. Councilman Argyle.
Aye.
Councilman Mendenhall.
Aye.
Councilman Scobes.
Aye.
Councilman Gordon.
Aye.
Councilmember Beck.
Aye.
Okay. I'd entertain a motion to go out of RDA.
So moved.
Second.
Got a motion by Councilman Gordon, a second by Councilman Scobes. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Okay, we'll go back to new business, local public safety and firefighter survival spouse trust fund.
So the legislature in 2016 passed a law that actually is a big benefit to our public safety people, but what it indicated is if we have a public safety employee who is killed in the line of duty, then their surviving spouse is entitled to health insurance benefits up until the time that he or she remarries or is eligible for Medicare assistance. And we're also required to provide health insurance coverage for minor children up to the age of 26. And then they put together a statewide trust fund that we can opt into or stay out of, which will help defray those expenses as we, all share them together. And by doing that, we remain responsible for the first 2 years, but then beyond that, we can have these shared expenses. So we've looked at it. I believe we've talked with you about this a little bit. We think this is appropriate to join with numerous other municipalities in this trust fund and sharing those expenses. Our share is, at least our beginning share is $95 per officer, which would be about $3,000 a year. Now, as they use their amortization schedules and so on and so forth, those numbers will undoubtedly rise as the years go by, but that's our beginning number. As we compare that with what it would cost us without that, it's a fraction of the cost. We think this is kind of a no-brainer. I should mention at this time that the way the law is written, that employees to be eligible have to be on the URS, or the Utah Retirement System. And so right now, that's only our police officers. In the future, if we end up with some kind of a full-time fire department or with some employees within the fire department who are full-time, then they'll be on the URS also, and they also will be eligible. But for now, this just covers our police officers. I know there's been some confusion around the state over that issue. I just want to make sure that you understood that the public was clear on what's covered for now. But
would that also cover our ambulances if they come full-time, or would that not
the way the
part
law is
of it?
defined, they're not public safety. Now,
okay.
that could change in the future as well.
So just be the firefighters.
But as of now, police and firefighters. But who knows what the legislature will do with that. It's possible that could change also. In our system and in most systems, they're in the public safety department. But the way the legislature defined the law, it didn't pick them up.
Okay.
So we do need we do recommend approval of this contract to join in with the State Retirement Fund for our public safety people.
Okay, I did entertain a motion on that.
I move to have the mayor sign the local public safety and firefighter surviving spouse trust fund cost-sharing agreement.
Second.
Got a motion by Councilman Scobes, a second by Councilman Mendenhall. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Maple Mountain Estates preliminary plot reapproval.
The aerial. Okay.
You might be next. Are we?
Oh, sorry.
Come on now.
Chris?
We already talked about Maple Park Estates.
Hey, just knock him out of the way.
Maple Mountain Estates is just to the north of it. Same scenario, except all of the zoning is already in place for Maple Mountain Estates. So there, the redesign really just involves making an adjustment, like you can see here for this image, to set aside an identical amount of right-of-way, is what we just talked about there. I deeply regret that I've got no sugar of any kind to give the developer, but again, we really appreciate him working with us on this. I'm a lifesaver. That's what I got.
A lightsaber?
Stop it.
All right.
We recommend that it be approved.
I'd entertain a motion. I'd still entertain a motion.
I'll make a motion to approve the amended Maple Mountain Estate preliminary plat with the following.
You don't need to list all those. That
Okay.
all comes with it.
Findings.
I'll second that.
Got a motion by Councilman Argal, a second by Councilmember Beck. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All right.
Thanks, Dean.
Appreciate that. Sorry you had to wait all that time just for that. All right, Chris, now you can take over.
Before Chris starts,
Yeah, smart guy.
Yes!
Smart guy.
Yes, Chris.
I can tell this has gone way too long.
Yes. So the first item is the IMSAR lease agreement. IMSAR is a company that does radar equipment for aircraft. They also do it for intersections, for the traffic signals at intersections. Anyway, they want to relocate to our airport property. Last year, we signed a lease agreement with them that would go into effect February of this year, and they would basically lease the land for about $30,000 a year, starting February 15th. With the election, presidential election, and military contracts that they have, things were enough in flux that construction isn't quite ready to go into effect. So there's some delays there. And so they've asked us to modify the lease agreement in a couple ways. First of all, they will still start making the $30,000 a year payments on the land starting February 15th. So we don't have to worry about not collecting that. That will go into effect. But it does allow for more time for them to build their building, as well as for us and them to build the taxiway from the building and the improvements on Main Street, which we've agreed to put in right through here. And so this is where that building is going to go in. And so we feel like this is a great amendment in that we can start collecting the lease amount, which is the benefit to us, immediately, but our improvements that we are on the hook to do can be postponed. One thing, though, it does also clarify is that they pay their lease payment on the square footage of building, and as they were designing the building, in the warehouse, there's a mezzanine level. And so their concern was, well, do we add that into the square footage of the building? But we've not done that on any of the other buildings there at the airport. We always do it by the footprint of the building. So it just clarifies that so everyone understands exactly how things will be charged. So those are the three main things that are taken by the amendment.
Great. Any questions? If not, I'd entertain a motion.
I'll make a motion, we approve the IMSAR lease agreement amendment.
I'll second that.
Got a motion by Councilman Gordon, a second by Councilmember Beck. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Spanish Fields, wall.
Okay, when Spanish Fields was constructed, they were required to put a masonry wall along this border with the Wasatch Pallet Factory. And they got to about right here when the owner of this property stopped them legally because there was some sort of an access agreement that he had been given a while ago, allowing his trucks to come in off of the highway into the shop. That legal battle ended in in him owning these lots right here and the wall stopping right here. The city felt like the wall was a very important part of this development and held the money for it, and then has been since working with the new property owner here. The old property owner owns these lots to come to some sort of terms where this access could be abandoned, the wall could be constructed, and that has been done. It's signed by everyone but the mayor, so we'd like you to authorize the mayor to sign it, and we'll
Build the wall. I'm glad that
get this
scout's
wall
not-
built.
I've had a change of heart now after listening to that scout. I don't know, why do we need a wall?
Was that a campaign promise that you made?
All right. Any other questions, comments on this? If not, I'd entertain a motion.
I move to approve the Spanish Fields Wall Agreement.
Got a motion by Councilman Mendenhall, a second by
Second.
Councilman Scobes. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All right. I would like to make a board appointment. On the library board, I would like to appoint Amy Baird.
I approve Amy. She's pretty cool. Or is that legal to say?
Or is that
You're the
legal?
council member. You can say whatever you want.
Junior, is that legal?
Second.
I would take that being a motion.
Motion.
Oh, thank you. A motion by Councilmember Beck, a second by Councilman Scopes.
Argyle.
Oh, Argal. I thought you were the library board. All right. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Cool. All right, let's move down to opt-out, 6 months after signing up recycling.
Okay, this was supposed to be a discussion item at the mid-year training that we couldn't get to, but one of the issues that has come up is recycling costs have gone through the roof, if you will. We used to get paid $25 a ton for recycled goods that we would take to Rocky Mountain Recycling, and now they charge us $25 a ton to take recycled goods there.
Not just overnight, to clarify.
It took a couple of years, but my goodness, that's a big swing, a $50 swing in what happens there. With that being said, we set the cost of the recycling cans at the real added cost to the garbage budget, and we try to do that as close as we can. So the city does not really profit from the recycling. In fact, right now, until the next budget, we are probably losing money on the recycling. And so there's a restriction that was passed, that was instituted back when we did the opt-out, and it basically said that you could only opt out of recycling in December of each year. We've had requests to not be so rigid on that, and we don't see any city reason to hold to that. We do feel like, though, that if someone can opt in and then immediately opt out, and we're only making $3 or $4 or collecting $3 or $4 a month, that it needs to be long enough so that it's worth the city's time to deliver the can and then go pick it up. And so we would recommend, and just would like some direction from you, if we changed that to say, once you've had a recycling can for 12 months, you can opt out at any time. The other suggestion is if you're ordering a second black can, and you want to opt out at that time, we're already making a trip, and then that's not a problem. This shouldn't be handled, I don't believe, in the municipal code. This is more of an administrative policy matter that we would just do internally, but where the initial direction came from the city council and at the recommendation of an ad hoc committee, we just wanted to get the nod from you before we made some of these administrative policy changes. So
I have a question. How long does someone have to keep the black can if they call in and get a second one?
6 months.
So why would the recycle one be 12?
The black can, we collect between $11 and $12 a month.
Okay.
And so it's a little bit easier to justify going out and picking it up after 6 months. There's another thing about the black cans. A lot of people add a second can, and this is only talking about the second can. You can't opt out of the first can. It's required to have that first can. So we're just talking about the second can.
Can't burn it in Lake Shore anymore, Brandon.
So the second can, a lot of times people will order it in the spring for their grass, and then they'll send it back. Now, I would like to say here that we would suggest you grass cycle or mulch your grass and not put it in the can. So just had to throw that out there.
There you go. Okay.
Thank you, Chris.
Does
And
that
you're
sound
up.
good direction? Or?
Yes. Southwest Regional Lift, your station.
Okay, this was also on the mid-year council training agenda, but we couldn't get to it. And basically what we had is a situation where some of the area down in the southwest part of town was planned to go to Salem's wastewater treatment plant. And so we do have an area that right now feeds into that plant. One of the problems is we collect impact fees that goes to Salem, and our long-term plan is to build a couple of lift stations that will go to our plant. And so we feel like there's two options. One is you double charge impact fees to the residents moving in here, which we weren't really comfortable with, or we take another look at our master plan and see if there's a more efficient way to do it. We hired Bowen and Collins to do that, and they came up with a really great plan, working with staff, and that is to add a lift station right here on, this is Arrowhead Trail, and then I think this is 8800 South. It goes out to the freeway. 8,000 South. Okay, so this is 8,000 South. It's a county addressed road. And if we add a lift station here, what we can do is we can gravity feed from here. This is the point, this is the line that picks up all of Spanish Fork's sewage that goes to Salem. We could pick it up here and gravity feed it down to this lift station location. It could receive some other gravity lines, which would feed all of this blue area, okay? And then it would pump it up to here. I guess this blue area would feed into here, but it would pump in a force main up to this point right here, which is right at a location near the old Sunrock H.E. Davis gravel pit. And then it would come and gravity feed down here and connect into our trunk line, which goes up Third West. Anyway, this is actually quite a bit less expensive than any other option that we've planned to do or envision doing with Salem or with Spanish Fork. And so one of the issues is where it kind of benefits existing residents as well as development in this area and development in this area. One of the things that we propose is splitting the costs and having the cost of this be by a developer, this by a developer, and sharing the cost of this. And so in the budget, you've seen we budgeted $2 million for something like this, but it looks like it'll be more like a little over $1 million for the city. So working out pretty good, just by way of discussion.
And that funding from the city's portion would be impact fees.
Yes, probably about 80% of it would be impact fees, but the 20% for existing residents would be paid out of budget. So, and that's already budgeted. Actually, $2 million's budgeted right now.
Great. Thanks, Chris.
Thank you.
I move we go into closed session. For reasonably imminent litigation and land transaction.
Second.
Ooh, got a motion by Councilman Gordon, a second by Councilman Mendenhall.
Stay here.
All in favor?
Golden.
Aye. you want to just stay here? We are now in closed session. Thank you for everyone coming here.
See ya.
Appreciate you.
Thank you.
I gotta go. Tip her down the tide once.